And so how you doing, Raul? Did you get it fixed? No? Nope.
Hear me?
Are you back?
Okay. I am back. I am back.
Okay.
I am back. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
I can hear you
Okay.
okay now.
Okay. Can you see the video?
Nope, not yet.
Just the voice, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So, long story short, the internet is, I don't know what happened with the service provider here, because all of a sudden I can connect. I see all the full connectivity, but the content, um, the for some reason, um, I can see myself connected, but it's just uh, interesting because it's connected, it's not connected. So that's the main problem. So we are gonna try a couple of things. Right now, and I apologize to the audience for the technical difficulties, but here we are unstoppable, um, and whatever works, it will work, right? So that's the rule of the game here, not getting paranoid when we have challenges and difficulties. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. This is a new thing that we are gonna do. um, Kathy, you will have to work with me on this one because the
Mm-hmm.
uploading auction is taking forever. But there is one way to do this as well, right? So, and you are the main
Oh,
actor, so
here we
we're
go.
gonna. We, all right. Okay. Let's start. Let's talk about the Akashic Records, which is a fascinating topic. Um, so right now I am sharing my screen for you, Kathy, for all of the audience,
Okay.
and we are just move, right? So, what is the Akashic Records, Kathy?
What are the Akashic records? We'll go
Slide
to the
number
next
one.
slide and it'll explain it. The Akashic records, also known as the Book of Life or God's Book of Remembrance. Now remember, people will ask you, what in the world are the Akashic records? I don't know. I never hear the preachers talking about Akashic records. Is this thing for real? Well, it may not be called Akashic records in the Bible, but it is called the Book of Life. And if you Google Book of Life in Bible, you will find 2 or 3 dozen different references to the Book of Life. So whether it's called the Book of Life or God's Book of Remembrance or the Akashic Records, they can be equated to the universe's supercomputer system, or perhaps what today would be called cloud computing. So everybody understands what the cloud is, right? When you store information in the cloud. Well, that's what the Book of Life or the Akashic Records are doing. They're storing every minute of every life you have ever lived, and every other soul that God has created is in the Book of Life. Okay?
Got it. Got it. Understood. So that's the Akashic record. Why there are, some Christians and some, you know, people that profess religion that says it's better for you not to access these records, and this is like a very deep evil kind of thing that how is that you are able to access to this does just that you don't have the right. Basically, God has the right to access this information. So what's the logic that we can elaborate for in order to respond to this kind of criticism?
Well, the statement is a fear based statement, and it comes usually from people who fear God. I remember my first connection with the Akashic Records. And this was when I moved into my dad's house after my divorce. And he was lonely. My mom had died the year before, so it worked out great for both of us. And I'm carrying a box of books upstairs to my room. One fell off and hit me on my foot. And it was about Edgar Cayce. And when I moved in with my dad, I had asked God, I said, "Dear God, I want to grow spiritually. I want to understand everything. So I ask that you please guide and direct me to the right places to go." Well, Edgar Cayce's book fell off and hit me on my foot. And I thought, I've been carrying this book around for 10 years and I've never read it. Well, when I read it, Edgar Cayce began talking about the Akashic Records and how he was able to go into a sleep trance. And if somebody was sick, he had an 8th grade education, yet he could diagnose the illness and prescribe the treatment. And he was never wrong. And he became world renowned. Even to this day, the predictions that he made and the lives that he changed, he's still better known than anybody else in the entire world. And when I read his book and it talked about the Akashic Records, I thought, gee, I wonder what those are. I asked God for guidance. I told God that I wanted to grow spiritually, and I asked that he direct me. So I accepted that if I pursued this and looked up the Akashic Records and what they meant, that God would guide me. And that wasn't the first time that happened. Actually, I'd go to a bookstore and I'd be turning a turnstile of books and one would fall off and hit me on my foot. And I'd hear this voice say, "Read this book." Or I'd be browsing through some shelves and pick up a book and think, "This is interesting." And I hear a voice say, "No." So I put that book back down. So when I heard about the Akashic Records, I decided to do a little bit of studying. Now, there was a woman named Madame Blavatsky back in the turn of the 19th century. And she also talked about the Akashic Records. And she had wonderful knowledge.
We're back.
Okay. Well, I just kept talking, if that's okay. We've lost the power.
Interesting connectivity issues here. Yeah, we are back.
You're breaking up, Raul.
Under a
I can't understand. I can't understand what you're saying. You're breaking up.
Coming up.
The PowerPoint's gone.
We are ready. Right, so it's interesting that that this situation happens. Yeah.
So it's your internet connection?
Just coming along. Try one more time. Try one more time. Next day.
Looks like Raul has gone again. So one thing that I would like to share with you about the Akashic Records actually relates to what we've been talking about in our previous session. We were talking about people who had near-death experiences. And I love to read these stories because they are so uplifting and they help us understand just how much God loves us. But in many of those stories, when people returned to the other side and they were taken into a room to view their recent lifetime and the lessons that they wanted to learn, many of these people came back to talk about the Akashic Records or the book of life. If you go to church, that's how you would probably describe it, is the book of life. And they were actually told by their guides, I want to show you something in the book of life that happened in a previous lifetime. And you are in this lifetime to forgive. And a lot of people discovered that things that happened to them in former lifetimes, unforgiving, their spirit was totally unforgiving, which I completely understand. But unforgiveness holds you back from your spiritual growth. So when these people went home to the other side and had a near-death experience, they saw the book of life, the Akashic Records, in that lifetime, that something happened to them, somebody did something to them, and in this lifetime, they still haven't forgiven them. So they experienced the book of life or the Akashic Records as well. And I've also read that when you return home after you die, your physical body dies, but your spirit goes home. And you can stay in spirit, you can stay in heaven, and you can learn a lot of information. You have the opportunity, when you're safe at home, to go through the Akashic Records. And I think it would be wonderful to go through the Akashic Records and read all about everything in history that we've ever been taught. Actually get the lowdown on what really happened. So I can tell you that I've had many dreams in which I remembered being in a large room, like the picture. What do we have on the screen here? Raul, do you see the picture on this slide?
Yeah, which picture? What is slide number?
Let me see if I can see it. Looks like number 3.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, this picture. Mm-hmm.
You see the picture here? Can you back out?
Yeah, it's like a key.
Yeah, we need to go back. Can you go back?
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Let's see. I will tell you, slide number 1 is the beginning. Number 2, number 3. Number 3 is like a key.
Okay.
With books.
These
all
records
around.
Contain our every thought, deed, word, feeling, and intent. They have a tremendous influence on our everyday lives, our relationships, etc. They are the central storehouse of all information for every individual who has ever lived upon the earth. They contain our every thought, deed, etc. So let's go on to the next slide because I want to show you this picture.
Yeah, next slide.
Do you see this picture here? This library, can you see that image of a library? Raul, can you see that? Okay. Well, I have had many dreams when I remembered being in a huge library very similar to this image. I believe I went to the Akashic Records library in my dream. Now, I also remember having a conversation with Mother Mary in a side room of the library that appeared to be like a conference room. And I saw myself going in and sitting down at the table, and Mother Mary came through the door and sat down and talked to me. Amazing, really. And one of the earliest references to the Akashic Records in modern times was the woman I mentioned, Helena Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophical movement in the late 19th century. Theosophy is an esoteric belief system that incorporates philosophical tenets from Eastern religions while maintaining that there is no religion higher than truth. She was very popular.
This may be the reason why our, some people that practice religion which is not bad. I practice my Catholic religion by an open mind. Let's put it that way. And I am Christian. They get concerned about this. When you talk about theosophical movement, that they associate this with what they call the New Age. And so that may be why we have so many people that are afraid to look into this subject.
Well, when you ask God for guidance and you ask God give you the power to discern the truth, just like in my case, I'd go to the bookstore and a book would fall off and hit me on my foot. And a voice said, read this book. I'd pick up a book and look at it and the voice said, no. And I'd put it back down. So I trusted that God would give me the power to discern the truth. I did not live my life in fear, Raul. I think because I had my experience where God talked to me, I saw God as a living thing. And so many people who go to church who are very, very involved in religion seem to be afraid of God. And they are afraid I was too, until God spoke to me. And God said the only thing he wanted is for me to get to know him. And if people are so fear-based that they would think that a child who went home to the other side in a near-death experience and came back to talk about angels, knocked on the door and told the parents, either you tell him to stop talking about those evil angels or we're going to kick you out of the church. Now, where does that come from? That fear-based words. Talking about angels is supposed to be evil. You see what I'm saying? Instead of saying,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, if there is anything about this that I can learn about, or on the other side, oh no, I know this is of the devil. You'll never move beyond that fear-based thought. I was there at one time, but I chose to expand my mind. And there's a lot.
Got it.
And you know, Raul,
let's continue with the next slide.
Yeah, every single religion is a path to God, whether it's a Muslim or whether it's a Christian or whether it's a Buddhist, they are all on the path to God. And I don't see that as being wrong. Now, Blavatsky claims she learned of the records from Tibetan monks, or what they call Mahatmas, who said the records could be found in the Akasha or the Akasha, the Sanskrit word for astral light, or the ether element in the Eastern belief systems. This fifth element of space is considered the fundamental fabric of reality from which all other elements emerge. It's the source of material reality. The Eastern idea of karma is a major facet of the Akashic Records. Next. These masters of the ancient wisdom, as Blavatsky referred to them, taught her clairvoyance, psychic abilities, and astral projection. You know, these people in India have actually been able to do that. Now, she used these tools to channel information from the Akashic Records, and she built a large following. And there were a lot of very well-known people, politicians, writers, performers, who were a part of her society. Next. Those who subscribe to Akashic record models often reference the Book of Life first mentioned in the Old Testament in Exodus. Biblical scripture asserts that a record of every life is kept in heaven, and it is from these records that souls are judged.
Well, next. Again, so I have a conflict opinion there. Okay. Now I'm conflict opinion. I believe souls are not judged.
We're not, Raul, but you need to remember one thing. The Bible was put together by human beings who had certain agendas. So I'm with you. We are not judged when we return home. We review our life. We grew here. Maybe we fell behind there, but we are never judged. People don't understand that the reason we come here to planet Earth is to make mistakes, Raul. If you stay home in heaven, everything is perfect. Now, you can have soul growth, but it'll take you a lot longer. If you have a desire to move up quicker, then you choose to come here where you can make mistakes, because apparently you learn so much quicker when you make a mistake if you don't get up to beating on yourself, you know, and just say, well, guess we won't be doing that again. So I'm with
but
you.
my point is agree. But my point is that in the statement, it says biblical structure asserts that a record of every life is kept in heaven. And it is from this record that souls are judged. So,
as so many Christians believe.
So we are not. Okay.
And that's what a lot of Christians believe. They believe they're going to be judged. You know, a lot of elderly people are afraid to die because they think they're going to be judged. I don't believe it. You don't believe it. There are a lot of people, when they really get to know God, they know that God never judges us. Our explorations of the Akashic field were also a major focus of the writings and work of Edgar Cayce. His studies posited that there is a storehouse of information in a non-physical plane of existence which maintains a record of every soul's past, present, and future. And his readings are some of the best known. Now, Edgar Cayce started out by healing himself. He lost his voice. He didn't speak for many, many months. And he just so happened to meet somebody who thought he was a hypnotist. He was a doctor. And he thought maybe it was a psychological problem. And when he hypnotized Edgar Cayce actually was able to go to the problem. And he was able to heal himself. And the word got around, and the next thing you know, people from all over the world are coming to him for healing. And he could diagnose their illness and prescribe the treatment, and it was never wrong. And medical doctors, they tried everything they could to prove that it was a hoax, that it wasn't real, but they couldn't. And to this day, he's still one of the best known psychics in the world. And he found that a lot of illness was due to issues from either this lifetime or another lifetime. If he could go to those records and find the issue, because he would ask God for guidance, then he could help them work through that issue. He was an amazing man. When asked about the source of his information, Edgar Cayce replied that there were essentially two. The first was the subconscious mind of the individual for whom he was given the reading. The second was the Akashic Records. And we know, we know that the subconscious mind can have either a positive or a negative effect on your health. We know. And a lot of times it's from core issues. You know, we talk about core issues. Edgar Cayce referred to the records this way. Upon time and space is written the thoughts, the deeds, the activities of an entity as in relationships to its environs, its hereditary influences directed or judgment drawn by or according to what the entity's ideal is. Anytime he was in a trance and he spoke, his wording was kind of like this, sometimes hard to understand. Next slide.
Mm-hmm. So the record is called Ghost.
Yeah,
of
I'm
Remembrance.
losing you again. I didn't understand what you said. What did you say?
I was saying that the I am right now existence called Cox Book of Remembrance.
I can't hear you.
No, yes.
No, I can't hear you. I don't know what
Yeah,
you said. What did you just say?
I'm just repeating the first sentence.
Oh, okay. And
Just
this is continuing with his reading, hence, as it has been oft called, the record is God's book of remembrance. And each entity, each soul's, as the activities of a single day of an entity to the material word either makes them good or bad or indifferent, depending upon the entity's application of self. Like I said,
can
his
you?
wife recorded every word he said when he was in the trance. Yes, did you
Got
want to
it.
say?
Yes, I was saying if you can elaborate a little bit deeper these statements because it's kind of deep.
Mhm. Yeah. So what he's saying is there is a record of every second of your life in every lifetime. Each soul as the activities of a single day of an entirety. So he's saying he can go see a particular day because he's asking God for guidance. These people are coming to him with health issues, and he's asking God to give him guidance by looking at their book of life, their records. It could be a particular day, or maybe he has to go into the entirety in the material world, either make some good or some bad or indifferent, talking about things in their life. They grew here, they didn't grow there. We all make mistakes. And if we learn from those mistakes, we move up the ladder of soul growth. But if we are punishing ourselves, Casey found that a lot of people were punishing themselves for things that they did wrong in other lifetimes. So by going to their records and discovering what they were, he could help them forgive themselves. That's always the toughest part, isn't it?
Right.
So his reading suggests that each of us writes the story of our lives through our thoughts, our deeds, and our interactions with the rest of creation. And this information has an effect on us in the here and now. And that was where he was able to help them. In fact, the Akashic records have such an impact upon our lives and the potentials and probabilities we draw toward us that any exploration of them cannot help but provide us with insights into the nature of ourselves and our relationship to the universe, if you choose to grow. Edgar Casey said there is much more to our lives, our histories, and our individual influence upon our tomorrow than we have perhaps dared to imagine. By assessing information from the Akashic records, the universe's computer database, much might be revealed to us. The world as we have collectively perceived it is but a faint shadow of reality. That's what we find out. Now, here is some of the information that you can learn by assessing the Akashic records. In fact, 10 facts about your soul contract. And you know what I mean by soul contract. Raul, do you know what I mean by that? Soul
Yeah,
contract.
when you decide to come to planet Earth, you decide, who your family is gonna be, what your name and the birth is
Yeah,
gonna be, right?
that's right.
Life events, when you're gonna die, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or how you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
die.
Yeah.
And actually, um, this could be very interesting to master because we always talk about the free will, right? So, do we really have free will?
You do. Because who chose these situations? You did. So you chose your name and the date of your birth. Your soul family helps you with healing. Life events help you with healings. You have free will. You choose your death. You are not alone. You have access to spirit guides or angels. Synchronicity occurs to guide you. You can break a soul contract. You can clear karmic debt, and you can clear ancestral agreements. So it's pretty interesting. And
It's
when you
very
think about,
go ahead.
yeah, well, when you think about your life contract, I think sometimes when we come here, we forget. You know, we're touched with the wand of forgetfulness. Usually, because if we remembered why we're here, we could choose just to go on home. Man, this is so hard. I don't want to do this anymore. So we forget that we wrote the script for this lifetime. And I think if we understood that, like the little boy whose parents brought home the newborn baby I told you about, they put her in the crib and called their 3-year-old son in to meet his new baby sister. And he stood there for the longest time looking down at her. And then he asked, "Can I talk to her alone?" Well, they agreed, but they wanted to know why. So they turned on the baby monitor. And this little 3-year-old boy said to his baby sister, "You have to tell me about God. I'm starting to forget." True story. And I have read that babies who come in have a memory of heaven and a memory of God up until about the age of 5. And if they come from a family that knows God and loves God, what they remember can grow and nurture them. But the problem that I see with a lot of parents is when their kids start talking about angels or something like that, they get a little freakish. They don't understand. And yet every one of us has guardian angels. I remember one of my employees had twin daughters. And she came home one day and her twin daughters were just talking away. And she went down the hall to the bedroom where they were. And she said, who are you talking to? And they said, Meemaw. Meemaw was her deceased grandmother. And I've also read that it's highly likely that your beloved relatives who have passed on when you're first born may very well come back to communicate with you. So she knew exactly who they were talking about, her grandmother. It happens. There are numerous books written on the topic of the Akashic Records. If you want, you can also go to YouTube because they have a lot of very interesting videos on the Akashic Records. If you want to learn how to access your Akashic Records, check out some of these sources, because if you go to the to the YouTube, there are lots of guidance on how to access your Akashic Records. Or you can simply ask God for guidance. And this way, and of course, you always ask for protection and make sure that you can discern the truth and you can find out a lot. Wouldn't it be fascinating, though, to know every life you've ever lived?
Yeah, that may be fascinating, but it's scary at the same time. I think you need to be prepared so that you understand that maybe in the other life you were not the good guy. You were maybe the bad guy. You were playing that
You will
role
be.
for
Now,
yourself.
this is something that people need to understand, because sometimes you choose to be the bad guy, like the woman who had a near-death experience. And she'd had a problem with her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law drove her crazy, just made her life totally miserable. And she just wondered, what in the world did I ever do to this woman that she hates me so much? She had a near-death experience. And when she went home, the guide took her in a room. She was sitting at a table with her guides, writing the things that she wanted to learn in her next lifetime. Sitting next to her was her dearest friend in all of eternity, who said, "And because I love you and I want you to learn compassion, I'm coming back as your obnoxious mother-in-law." And when the woman came to in her hospital and she realized who this woman was, it changed everything. This was her
Yeah.
dearest friend in eternity. She chose to be an obnoxious person that everybody disliked simply out of love for her friend. So sometimes you do choose to come back as the bad guy. We've all been there. I was a prostitute in one lifetime. In 1800s England, when women were all just squashed, they were servants and nothing else. But when I was a madam at a brothel, I was helping these women be free. We were freeing ourselves from those chains. So I was a prostitute, although I had a reason for doing what I did. But you could have said I was a bad person in that lifetime. But it was my
Right.
choice because there were things that I wanted to help women grow and help them break free from this mindset that men had, that they were just chattel. And every time they married, you're nothing to me but a maid and making my kids.
Right. So the question that the audience may have is how you access the Akashic record. We say that, is to look for some sources, but have you heard about one way to do it
Yeah.
through meditation?
Yes.
Somebody do
Yes.
a hypnosis into you.
Mhm.
How you access the Akashic records?
You can either find somebody who is familiar with the process to help you, or in my case, I was able to close my eyes and visualize. For me, because my mind is going yada da 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 da, it's hard for me to tone it down. So I visualized that I was standing on a hill and looking out over this beautiful hill, and the sky was so blue and the birds. And I took about 5 minutes to see the beauty of the earth. And then I turned around and I saw this magnificent building. And when I went into that building, that slide that I showed you earlier is what I saw. This magnificent building. I walked in and there were, stories going all the way up, stacked with books, a hallway that you couldn't even see the end of, and more on this side. And that was my library of the Akashic Records. And I would go sit at a table and I would ask, what is it that I need to see that will best serve me in this lifetime? Is there anything in my subconscious mind that is sabotaging me today? Something that I need to release? And angels would appear and they'd put a book in front of me and I'd read about it. Well, like when I discovered I was a prostitute.
Yeah, that's a one pending matter that I will have to do with myself, to have access to the Akashic records, to
Yeah.
understand why things happen in a way that maybe I really didn't want to happen.
Yeah.
What I am learning from this, all of this, I think it will be an excellent way to help you develop personal growth
Yes.
and obviously elevate your spirituality. With this being said, we are wrapping this now.
Mhm.
That's so awesome. And I think for next Thursday we need to come with a new topic. And we will figure out something for sure. Right. And let's talk about that. I don't want to say
Well, the one
anything.
thing that I would say to anybody who watches this, please do not be afraid to explore. Do not think that God is going to get you if you think, I wonder if there really are Akashic records, or I wonder about this, or I wonder about that. Everything is here for you to help in your soul growth. And if you ask God for guidance, I just said, Dear God, I want to learn everything I can, and I want to come closer to you, and I want to understand everything. And all I ask is that you give me the power to discern the truth. And he did. Some books that
Yes.
fell on my foot, or some books that I heard, no, don't read them. And God will guide you. Don't ever be afraid to seek out other information.
I agree. In my case, when I do channeling, when I want to talk to my mom,
Yeah,
I basically I say I want to talk to you, and then I feel her presence, and then I ask her, and she smiles to me because it's kind of odd that here it is. But I ask her to repeat. Um, I said, please, mom, say that you love God with all your spirit, that you recognize Him as the celestial Father, who is pure love to you, and that you appreciate everything that He has done for your soul. And so, can you repeat that, please? She repeated and she keeps laughing. And then, okay, so you are verified. So things like that, because I think it's like you are opening a door, right? And you don't want to bring other um, low frequency sources, or what they call spirits, to invade your space. And I understand the concerns, because it's reality also that there are, as we have a spirit that has some luminosity, you have low luminosity, meaning that they are spirits that are, works in low frequencies, and obviously you don't want to get involved with those ones.
right.
It could be scary, right? So
And
I
you know what I
understand.
always say? I always, anytime I'm going to be asking for guidance or checking stuff out, I always say, greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. And as long as you keep that memory of Jesus, and Jesus is always with you, nothing can touch you. Greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. And boy, they cannot stand that. And one time when I had two very dark entities coming after me, it was in a dream that I had. And when I said that statement, and I turned around and it was dark, and I said, in the name of Jesus, lights come on. And the lights came on, and these two negative entities just freaked out. Oh, no, no, no. And then they just disappeared
Yeah.
because they cannot
Also,
take, they can't take
yeah.
the light.
Also, right. Also, just want to say, when because I received some comments, right? When you say that you talk to God, it's not that Kathy has the exclusivity to talk to God. She's
No,
just
everybody
saying,
has.
yeah, it's like, God, talk to me.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think God talks to each of us. Some
Yes,
of us have the capability
he
to
would
listen to
love to
Him.
talk to you.
Some others, right? So it's not like Kathy has the exclusivity.
All
It's
you
just
have
that
to do
she's
is
ready
say,
to
God, can
to
you please talk to me? Can I hear you, God?
yeah. It's
Can
just
you please talk to me?
exactly
Let me know that you're here, dear God, and let me know that I matter. That's all you have to do.
exactly
You just ask God,
exactly
and that'll
exactly.
happen. and open
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
up to receive it.
Yes, of course. All right. So we are finalizing our webcast. It was a very interesting one because of the technical difficulties, but I think we managed to put it forward. Was not easy, but here we are. We make it work as usual. And so thank you everybody for being with Kathy and I. And we will try to look at a new topic. So we will think about something. To give me ideas, Kathy.
Well, I always like to leave the audience with this knowledge that you are loved beyond your wildest dreams. You are loved unconditionally, and you are perfect in the sight of God. And remember why you're here. You are a perfect soul who chose to come to earth to make mistakes. And when you make the mistakes, if it's something you don't like, just say, I won't be doing that again, because how does it make you feel? And that's what you remember. You don't spend the rest of your life beating yourself up because you came here to make mistakes. You just learn from those mistakes and move on. And so
Yeah.
many people that I coach are still beating themselves up for things that happened 20, 30 years ago. Get over it. You
Yeah.
can't grow unless you release that. God certainly
Agree.
isn't judging you.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
To be able to forgive yourself.
Yes.
All
Very,
right.
very.
I just want to say goodbye, everybody. I love you, and thank you, Kathy, for being here. And with that being said, I am closing the podcast. Thank you.
Is it off?
Is ministry.
I
I
lost you
call
again.
you again.
I can't hear you.
I call I
Can't hear you. You're frozen again.
Hello, Boto.